Hi all, and welcome to my post Clash of Kings roundup. In this one, I'm going to go through all my games. Got some photos. Managed to actually remember to take quite a few photos of the games, so I can give a bit of a narrative about the games. It's taking me a bit longer to get this up because I've come down with the post-event lurgy, so I'm a little bit nasally. So yeah, let's get started. And the first thing I kind of want to show you is this. This is my secret weapon. I came up with this on the Friday night. You'll see this in the table a lot, and it's there to remind me because I've got a bad habit of double guessing myself, and almost always the double guessing is wrong. So the Friday night, I decided to put this up and paint this and carry it around all the tables with me to remind myself to trust my initial instinct and go with the initial plan. I yeah, have to say it worked quite well for me on the whole. I think so. Yeah, good plan. Trust thy instinct. Use the force or whatever you want to go with here. So game one was against Matthew Walker, who is Vanguard, and we're playing pillage. You can see there's the 5 objectives. They are the green tokens. That was predetermined in the tournament. So they just said you're having 5 tokens. So Matthew's got a Vanguard list here. It's quite similar to what I've been kind of looking at playing around with Vanguard. So I was quite looking forward to playing against it, just see how it formed. So at the top here we've got some Fallen. Then there's a unit of Vanguard Warriors, unit of Trolls, another unit of Vanguard Warriors. I think they're all hand weapon shield. There's Herdra, whose mark is on the Trolls, just to make them doubly annoying. There's a Chaos Lord and a Chimera. There's 2 units of Tundra Wolves, and down there there's a Cavern Dweller. Now, you can see he's kind of deployed. He's deployed the back line in the middle, following up the north, and then the flanking units here, you know, quite clearly going to run around and grab the objectives. I've deployed the Trolls in the middle to sort of push up. My plan is to generally try and control these 3 and win that way. I'm not bothered about controlling all 5. I'm just going to dominate 3 of them and try and control them. I've got the 2 Wraith units kind of covering this flank to watch for anything trying to run round or to block up as need be. And I'm putting the Werewolves and the Lycanis out in the flank to try and swing round. And we've got the Vampires in the middle. I'm waiting to see where the Chaos Lord's basically going to go on the Chimera. We have to stop saying Chaos Lord, become Vanguard Lord. And we've got the Revenant and the Worm. Now, Matthew had said he'd only played, I think he only played a couple of games after that of the new version, but he does have, I think, quite a good list there. I quite like that list. So, turn 1, I shove it forward, start working the werewolves round the flanks. Matthew basically starts swinging this lot round the flank and just kind of faces off and pulls back a bit. This is, I've played 3 Vanguard players, and in fact play almost everyone I play over the weekend does a very similar thing. They all kind of stand back a bit from this army, which is fine by me. It lets me choose the charges, but you'll see later on in one of the games when my opponent puts it forward, it does make life a bit more difficult for me. So he falls back. I'm fine. Right, I'm going to commit. So I chuck it all in there. So you'll have to excuse some of the blurry pictures, unfortunately. There was already a bottle of Prosecco gone before we even started the first game. There was quite a lot of drinking. I think for the most part they're pretty steady, but some of them are the odd one that's a wee bit blurry. So the Lycanis and the Werewolves going against the Fallen and Bounce. They do a lot of damage with Bounce. Here against this big block of Chaos Warriors, I put a unit of Werewolves, a unit of Trolls, another unit of Trolls, and the Bounce. So the Wraiths had gone in there against the Trolls to try and jam them up, and failed. And this unit of Wraiths, I just held them back behind this impassable terrain to cover for this lot coming around the flank and get in the way. So next turn, Matthew, if I remember right, shoves it all back in, hammers this unit a bit, and does some damage across the board. But then the counter attack, the Fallen pop, and I managed to take out that unit of warriors there. And then he'd put the Trolls and the Dragon in against my zombie Trolls, and I hadn't done much after it. Over here, I'd flown those Wraiths over just to block this lot from coming around the flank, so the Wraiths had charged them. No, sorry, not charged them, just sat in the way. And I'd left him kind of facing that way to watch out for this bugger. So then this is where stats go a bit wrong, bit wrong for me, a bit bad. Matthew counterattacks and pops both units of zombie Trolls and the unit of Wraiths in one round. That was a bit of a shock. I didn't expect them all to die quite so easily. But then I managed to swing back quite hard. Unfortunately, there's a bit missing here, but I came in. The vampire who is there managed to. Matthew hadn't spotted the flank on the guy in the Chimera, comes in, and vampire pops him and run round the flank. I throw everything into these trolls, do enough damage, pop them when he feels a herger roll, so they die, thankfully. So at this point, he's counter attacking with the warriors and the cavern dweller against the werewolves. Um, well, he's going for it. I charge back in with the werewolves and the vampire, and pop them. So at this point, we're both thinking objectives. So Matthew runs the cavern dweller to that one. I've kept this unit of werewolves back on this objective for once, focusing the objective, and I've got this unit sitting on that objective. The problem is it's currently two. I've got two, and he has that one, and he's currently got that one. I could not get the Lycanus. Unfortunately, got wavered, so he had to go backwards to get closer to the objective, and he could not move fast enough to get there. So Herger can't contest. So what it came down to at this point on turn 6 was chucking the Vampire Lord into a unit of Tundra Wolves, which the Vampire Lord proceeds to fluff his rolls completely. Thankfully, we got a turn 7. Vampire Lord clears that unit up. That unit of Wolves come down, hit the Cavern Dweller in the back and take him out. He locks that one down, so I'm up 4-1 in the end, thankfully. And that translated as a 17-3 win for me with a victory point difference of about 695, which an attrition score of 1,630. So pretty good start. 17-3 is off to a good start as far as I'm concerned anyway. I think I played it quite well. I was lucky. There was a couple of 4-ups that would have made a difference. If that troll unit had stayed around from Herja, that probably scuppered me. Could have even given them the win. If the game had ended that turn earlier, it would have been a draw. So that was quite lucky. The initial attacks all going in and bouncing. I didn't expect both the Fallen and the Warriors at the start to be able to take both those charges and hold. I thought at least one of them was bound to pop, but the dice were not very kind at that moment. But thankfully I managed to pull it back round, and we, as you can see, we knocked chunks out each other. There isn't much left of either army by this point. So game 2, I'm against Chris Prince, and he's got elves. The scenario is push, which I will quite happily admit is my weakest scenario. I've been practicing it a couple, but this list really struggles because I just don't have enough units to be able to do it. So deployment wise, Chris has 2 units of Stormwind Cavalry out in the flank there, a big archer horde with, I believe if I remember rightly, it was the Piercing. He's got 2 regiments of Palace Guard and 2 troops of Palace Guard. There's a Lord and a Draken back there. There's 2 Dragon Breath, I believe they are, the breath weapon kind of squads. And then there's this unit out in the flank here, which I can't remember off the top of my head what they were. I deployed Werewolves against the flank, Lycanus backing them up, 2 units of Wraiths, the Trolls in the middle again, backed up by the Revenant King, Vampire in the middle. Pretty standard. He gave 1 token to the Archer Horde and 1 token to this unit here. The middle token that goes in the middle of the table was there. My 2 tokens, I dropped both of them on the Lycanus. Yep, so it's a bloody shot, but this unit here, basically as a token, runs off to the corner. I ignore them. I'm not even trying to take them out. I'm just decided to ignore them and go for the tokens in front of me. So he'd moved up. He sort of shuffled a bit. I moved up. Turn 2, I charge in the flank. I see a chance. So the Lycanus drops the 2 tokens there and launches himself into 1 unit of Stormwind Cavalry. A unit of Wraiths launched himself into another one there. This unit of Wraiths, I can't remember why they're there, to be perfectly blunt. I think I just pushed. Why were they there? Don't know. But a unit of Werewolves went into one of the Dragon Breaths. I brought up the other Werewolves and the Vampire in the flank, swung these guys round up to the hedge, covering that token, Revenant up the hill so you can see over. The problem was, I threw it all in, feeling pretty good. They pair will be blocked up, they pop them, and then they've got all the flanks. What happened was, the Wraiths actually did quite a bit of damage. The Lycanus went in and didn't land a single hit. so he doesn't take the Thunderous Charge off them. The Werewolf's gone against the Dragon Breath and do 3 wounds, so nothing pops. So as you can see then, Chris comes back round with a counter attack, starts shoving these guys forward to block the trolls. Well, this one, the unit of Palace Guards start flanking round and hits the Wraiths in the flank. Yep, so at this point, I thought, Dancer, he charged this guy, he flew this guy across, puts him there and goes, no one can see him, and no one can charge him, agreed, and we're both agreed. The unit of zombie trolls here, though, where I think he'd forgotten about Surge, I know he'd forgotten about Surge, we talked afterwards, could easily have turned, moved up 6 inches and been a 1-inch Surge away from a rear charge, and he'd be dead, and those objectives be safe. Unfortunately, through random chance, Chris picked that unit to shoot and obliterated it in one turn with the bowman, and a bit of shooting and lightning bolt just pops the whole unit in a winner. So suddenly, this lot's not doing well, and that happened. I'm not feeling too good. To add insult to injury, the unit countercharged Lycanis and wavered him. So it's not looking fantastic for me at this point, I have to admit. Not going well at all. So here we skip ahead. That unit of Wraiths is still in the flank, holding off there. The Lycanis hasn't quite died yet. I've taken out that unit of Palace Guard. And I've basically been clearing up the Palace Guard. So the Dragon Breath gone, the 2 regiments of Palace Guard have gone, and one of the troops is gone. So yeah, I managed to hit back thankfully quite hard, but I'm just out of position for objectives at this point, really. He shoots another werewolf horde off. I charged the characters over, start hitting up some of his characters to pick them off. I managed to get the werewolves in one flank, and I think the vampire went the other, and the revenant in the front, and just popped the archer horde in a winner. It was completely overkill. The vampire wasn't needed. These boys went against that troop and fluffed it. Didn't die. So these guys reformed to face that Stormwind cavalry because Lycanis popped eventually. At this point, Chris is sitting with the Draconis over there. He's got at least a good 2 points because that unit earlier on that's charging off the corner is now tucked in the corner. So that's him on 2 points. I've taken that one. I think I gave it to him. That token's actually on the Revenant. So I'm on 2 points. If he picks them up, that's pretty much game over at that point for me. Thankfully, he doesn't pick them up with him. He moves the Dragon Breath up. So over here, I've kind of, at this point, which did surprise me, I'll be blunt, because I thought if he picks him up, that's it. So I'd actually focused on killing the wizards and the standard bears and stuff and just going for the points, accepting I'd lost the game. But the Dragon Breath's heading towards those tokens to pick them up, and the Stormwind Cavalry there sort of just ran up the flank. So at this point, I clear up the middle, pick up the characters, start running these guys back over because I can see these tokens are up for grabs. And I managed to get the trolls in, and against that unit, fly the vampire over to block them in case I get another turn. The Draken Rider, I think, had got in between the Dragon's Breath and the trolls had took him out, if I remember rightly. Yep. And that was unfortunately how the game ended because we never got the extra turn. So I had him with 1 token in my half. He had one guy over there with a token for 2. I had him there with 2. One guy there with 2. Why did we draw this? I'm now suddenly questioning why we managed to draw this. Because I know he'd flown the Draken Rider over, now remember, to the token in the middle. So that would have given him 1. I've got 1 on him. So that's 2 points. That unit's 2 points. The Draken Rider should have been an extra point. I'll be blunt. I can't remember why this was a draw now. But it was a draw. It was a winning draw to me, 11-9 to me. Yeah, definitely was a winning draw unless I did pop the Draken Rider, and you think he'd have picked those tokens up with them. I'm genuinely curious why this was a winning draw. Oh well. Anyway, yeah, it was a winning draw with only a victory difference of 180. So that was an 11-9. As I said at the start, it was my worst scenario. I knew I was always going to struggle with this one. But either way, yeah, it turned out okay-ish in the end. The draw was fair enough. I think I probably was on for a loss there on those, so I was quite lucky to get a draw out of it, I think. So game 3, I was against Christopher. I think I've written that down right. Christopher. Apologies, got it wrong. You might have seen Chris if you go to some of the other Kings of War tournament. He's normally wearing I'm going to say Orc Mask. It could be a Goblin Mask. I apologise if I've got that wrong. And he's got Vanguard. Um, some wish list. We're playing Invasion here. So it's all about who has the most points in the opponent's half at the end of the game. So let's see if I can remember what Chris had. He had 2 units of the big Dire Wolf Riders, big Vanguard Dire Wolf Riders. He had 2 units of Tundra Wolves. He had 1 or 2 Magnus Conclaves, a unit of the Fallen, a horde of, I think, the normal kind of warriors, not the super powerful ones. Yeah, it was 1 Magnus Conclave there, and he had Herja and the Lord and the Dragon. The mark of Herja, I think, was on that unit there. Can't remember. So he deployed quite tight in the corner. I kind of went for a slightly wider line. It's not many folk I get to sort of go wide on, but I've got both units of werewolves with Lycanus there again. 1 unit wraiths there and 1 in the middle, just to sort of be able to cover either way, because I'm not sure whether I'm going to go in the left or right. It depends really what he does. 2 units of trolls holding up the middle, because this is the middle of the table, because of the way we're deployed. I put the vampire out in this flank and the revenant out in the flank. Don't normally like the vampire out in the flank. I do prefer him in the middle where I've got options, but I thought I would throw him out there. So first thing happens, I move forward. Werewolf's up, everybody goes up. Vampire comes over the middle, basically to face off against this lord. I don't want him. The vampire's job, as far as I'm concerned, all games just to face off against the lord and like him here and keep him honest. Must be said, Chris is possibly one of the most exact people I've ever seen with his measurements. Very, very, very sure of the measurements. Had pinpoint accuracy that way. Wasn't just it wasn't 18 and a half. It was 18 and 1. Very accurate measurement indeed. What surprised me was though he moved backwards. He basically rolled his whole army back and threw Herja forward here into the unit of wraiths. That was a bit of a surprise given the scenario, but understand a lot of folk get nervous about this army charging them because I do have a lot of really fast stuff. So he just kept everything just out of charging. So there was like over there could maybe put the werewolves and Lycanus into one of the units, but that's not going to be enough to pop it. And then the counter charge will wreck the units. And to be honest, given it was invasion, I was quite happy with that. As soon as he sort of went back, I was quite happy to play with that. So Herja had come in, hit some wraiths. So the wraiths hit and also moved those guys up and surged them in to sort of start whacking in Herja a bit. This then brought some Tundra Wolves in to this unit of wraiths that's sitting in the wood. Those guys sat exchanging with Herja. The rest of the armies faced off against each other, which, as I say, I was fine with at this point. My plan was basically face off and go for it on, because I had the last move, go for it basically 1 turn before the end and just block up. So this went on. We moved up. There was a lot of cat and mouse in the middle here. I killed Herja, killed that unit of Tundra Wolves. These guys just sat staring off. There's a lot of cat and mouse in unit kind of coming forward and back. The dire wolves, the fallen moving up, the trolls. Everything's just kind of staying out of range of being a good kill. There's a couple of moments here where he thought he might commit the horde on, which did worry me because you can see I'm a bit out of position after dealing with Herja. That was probably a mistake in his part. I think we were talking afterwards. Throwing Herja in without any follow-up, that kind of surprised me. I thought when Herja's coming in, that's a distraction. Next turn, everything else arrives. But he didn't. He kind of played it cautiously again. And at this point, we get to turn 6, and he realises, he'd been measuring the scenario, but we get to turn 6, he pushes forward, and he's not got enough speed to get across. All he can get across is the Fallen. So at this point, I chuck everything forward. This is the turn after. In fact, I think this is the start of turn 7 because, yeah, this start of turn 7 because I moved the wraiths up. He'd put some Fallen forward, and I'd moved the wraiths a little bit up into his zone. That was just enough to keep me in, so I'd charged kind of everything in, and then he'd come in with the counter charge. The charge itself hadn't been massively successful. I think I managed to didn't even take out one of those units. Everything just hit and bounced, but I wasn't wasn't too fussed about that. It was most about the scenario. At this point, I've kind of got the scenario tied up. And then last turn of the game, he just doesn't do enough. He pops that unit of werewolves, but doesn't roll enough of an overrun to get across. So I just move enough stuff into his half to secure the win. and kill a little bit, and that was it. The game ended 14-6 to me. With the VP difference was only 260, but at the end of the day, my attrition score was only 480. It was not a big scoring game. It was a lot of very, very cat and mouse. There was a couple of times he could have went for it, but it wasn't a surefire thing. There were a couple of charges I had that could have went in, but they weren't surefire. Part of the problem you have, I find, with my list against Vanguard, although I've got the speed to get the charge, if I can't get the full on multi charge, I really struggle to pop a unit, and then they just obliterate me in the counter charge. So thankfully, because he kind of kept moving back and just committed forward one turn too late, that basically gave it for me. I was at that point trying to just play for that, and that was the kind of game plan I was going for. Either he'll have to come forward into me eventually to win the game now because I'm right up, or he's gonna forget about it and I'll win the game that way. It's not a big one again, but tough opponent. He played it. He plays the list so carefully. He's not going to give you the mistake which you kind of need when someone's been like, you're looking for like the one mistake, the one opening to just shoehorn the army into, and then wrench that open and get the win. But he never gave me that mistake, so I had to settle for quite a small attrition score in that one. So end of day one, I'm on 2 wins and a loss. Sorry, 2 wins and a draw. That's pretty good going. I'm slowly moving up the table. Quite content with that. Things seem to be going pretty well for me. We head out for the night. At this point, everyone's already a bit drunk, but we get to bar, and yeah, this was us at the start of the night when everyone was still kind of sober. It went downhill quite quickly from there, and I rock into day two, and I've got Nick Williams with these Abyssals. Now, I went over this list with Nick in one of the pre-Clash of Kings videos I did, and it's a pretty hard list. I thought anyway. So I wasn't really looking forward to this fight. So quickly run through his list. He's got out in the flank here. He's got the Demon Lord, BL, I think is how you pronounce it. He's got 2 units of Abyssal Horsemen, a unit of Gargoyles. He's got 2 of Froth, 2 of them, one there, which were just they're horrible, those things. And then the Abyssal Temptress as well, kind of hanging around there. So I'm just reading off his arm list. So remember, he's got a regiment and a horde of lower abyssals, and he's got a unit of torture trolls out in the flank. So this is me after turn one. And remember we're playing loot, I believe. So it's about grabbing these 3 counters, and so remember you can pick the counters up and you can carry them off your board edge. And that was my basic plan: run forward, grab the counters, run away. I wasn't really wanting to engage Nick's army because it's combined arms and pretty horrible. This big piece here we played as impassable because it was just too awkward to balance models on, the same as the building here. So I had the werewolves in the flank as usual. I put the trolls the other side because I was pretty confident I could bottle them up there and not get flanked, and they could take almost anything in the face. 1 unit of wraiths tucked away here, another unit's gone forward to act as chaff. Vampires kind of mooching around out the line of fire, and like canister back. So Nick just jiggled around a bit basically, moved up a bit, held the horde behind the woods. The Afrits did some shooting if I remember rightly. Nothing kind of major. We're both just kind of facing off at this point because I'm not really confident. Because of these woods, I don't want to sort of go beyond here because then I'll expose the flank. And I don't really want to go through those woods engaged because that -1 is going to hurt, even though one of them's got the potion of the caterpillar. But I can't stand off either because he's got quite a lot of shooting, and that could end quite badly. Thankfully, start turn 2, he doesn't move this unit up into the woods. That means their line of sight's blocked, and that gives me an opening. So I decide to hell with it and go for it. So I move 1 unit of werewolves up there to cover the Lycanus, who comes up, picks up the token, turns away. Unit of wraiths move up, pick the token up. Unit of werewolves can move up and hide behind the woods again to cover the wraiths with the vampire, and the trolls move up to threaten that token with this guy kind of covering that way. I chuck the wraiths forward just to block up those horses there. So the basic plan is they grab that token. The idea is they'll come in, hit them, kill them, take the flank, grab the token on the vampire. Vampire goes away, 2 tokens gone. These guys push across the token if possible. He picks up, flies away, gone. Now that was the kind of game plan I was going for there. What I hadn't seen unfortunately was this side charge. So from over here, the Abyssal Horsemen, because I thought this was unit needed to come out with, were in range and come screaming across on the side. These guys come in the front. The Tortured Souls come in against the werewolves here. That's, I think, oh, that's another unit I forgot. That's the Abyssal Champion with the wings, the Honeymaze, I believe, flying around. So he just flies over there to get in the way, and the gargoyles come in to gum up. So that was exactly how I'd wanted it to go. Then what happens is, just to add insult to injury, the Efreet. Oops, did I go too far? Nope, I didn't. The Efreet shoot off the Lycanus. In one round, the two of them just blast them completely off the table. They pop the Wraiths. Thankfully, he's in a bit of an awkward state there. This unit of Wraiths hold, and these guys can't really kind of maneuver too easily. So, but they've picked up the token now. So Vampire goes in against those guys. He comes in the rear of them. The Wraiths go back in there. Werewolves going against this unit. Those werewolves countercharge them. And I whack both these units into these guys just to make sure the gargoyles die because they've got a ridiculous regen. Although one unit should pop them because they've got a 3-up regen, I have to make sure they die in one round or else they'll kind of come back to me. So we go on, pop the gargoyles. These guys kind of move back a bit so as not to get too cut out. He turns to face this big fella. That unit dies. The vampire's there and he's got the token on him. They go in, do a bit of damage, nothing really pops though there. So, where do we go from here? That's done, yep. So he turns this unit round again because unfortunately, because of the way the Torture Souls are and you can't get them in, that was one of my saving graces again, means that unit's around for at least another turn. And the big demon takes off, he's off hiding. I didn't realise he wasn't quite as good in combat as I thought he would be. So again, for not looking at the stats, so he actually took him away out the way. So at this point, got a token on one of these guys. Vampires get the token. There's a token this unit's hanging on because they popped those souls over there, the Tortured Souls. That unit went in and popped that unit of Abyssal Cavalry with the Wraiths. Wraiths turn to face, they turn that way. He goes up just to chase Bell round. He comes back round the building. There's just going to be a cat and mouse facing off against the Vampire. Now he backed Bell up so as not to engage the Vampire. So the Vampire dropped the token and charged him because he'd taken a pounding off the Efreets again, and he was on about 7-8 damage at that point. So he charges him, doesn't do much, but it's enough to heal him up. The Revenant King comes over and picks the token up. Those guys start heading away. I push that unit up just to push these Efreets back a bit, and I put that unit of Wraiths into that unit just to block them again, just to stop them coming in. I need to buy myself a bit of time to get the tokens out of the way and push the Efreets back. So, game goes on. Those guys peg it. The Vampire's a bit of a face-off with him, then gets out the way. The Revenant comes around the back of the building to protect him from the Efreets, and thankfully, I almost had them facing this way. Double moved them down there, which would have given this guy like a rear charge, and I noticed it in time to turn around to face him. There's one unit of those guys left. The werewolves just got annihilated by them coming in eventually, and so he's got one token there. To my two. And that was pretty much how the game ended, I think. Yep, that was how the game ended. So it was a tough game. I got a win. I got 14-6 out of it. The victory point difference was only 220, and the attrition was 975. That was a tricky one. The Efreets were just horrible. The amount of dice the two of them were putting out was just popping units. Like that's what popped the unit of zombie trolls there again. They just picked something and died, annihilate it with 40 fireballs, normally piercing one or two. Thankfully, I was lucky a wee bit again that Nick didn't manage to get all the Bane chants off. He kind of kept failing Bane chant quite a lot. But the plan didn't quite go as I'd wanted, but I basically ignored the characters and went for the units because I had nothing in this list. It's the one game more than anything I missed the individual vampire with the wings I have to make because he would have been all over the Efreets. But I didn't want to. I just focused on killing the units because if he doesn't have enough units to pick the tokens up, he can't win the game. That was the kind of logic I was going with there. So game 5 comes around, the draw goes up, and lo and behold, I've got Dan. Bugger. It was all I could think of. I had hoped not to play him, and we're fighting in domination. So it's all about controlling the centre 12-inch circle of the board. So we had facing out in the flank here his two Lycanus with one of his mages against my Lycanus, is he also called that? I think they might be called the same, and my two werewolf hordes. In the middle, he's got the two stampedes with the spirit walkers and the beast pack there. There's a beast pack over there supporting them, and they've got the avatar. So in the middle, I've got my vampire in the middle, the trolls to shove up, and the two units of wraiths there, and the revenant. The idea of the wraiths is to gum up the stampedes and hopefully give me a charge on them. And then Dan does what absolutely no one else does all tournament, has turn one, shoves it all in my face. So on the flank, the Lycanus and the werewolves sort of tippy toe 18.5 inches outside each other. Actually goes back a bit further because he remembers then my characters get charged 20, so they're just over 20 inches away facing off over on that flank. In the middle, one stampede comes up, beast pack blocking, the avatars behind the hedge, spirit walkers, the other stampede hanging back. This is unusual. Every other game I've played, I've had the choice of where I go in. Dan was basically not giving me a choice. It was going to happen next turn if it didn't happen. If I didn't go in my first turn, he was coming in the second turn and he'd pick the charge, which I couldn't allow with the stampedes. So yeah, as I said, on the flank here, they just move up, and I'm quite happy if they all face off against each other. The middle is the kind of key point. So, what I do is, I go for it. And against this stampede here, I managed to get a nimble charge in with the werewolves, put the vampire in, put the revenant king in, that's what the base represents. One unit of wraith goes into the beast pack, the other unit flies over and is in range, and they go into the stampede to jam it up. And the two units of trolls turn to kind of face to see what they needed. So they go in, there was a hedge there. I'd done the odds initially, and when I'd done the maths, I hadn't taken into account the hedge, and I'd have been fine. I'd have pumped the stampede. I'd have been pretty low. I'd have been in 4s or something like that to pop them, I think. Taking into account the hedge, the odds I think were just in Dan's favour, but I rolled incredibly well. I needed a 5 to pop them. Get a 5 for the first roll, second roll's a 4. So yeah, if you're at the tournament, I heard a bit of swearing and a cheering from Dan at that point, a very loud cheer. That was the bit, because that was crucial. If I'd popped there, I can turn to face. So because I didn't pop them, they went back. I only wavered them. They rolled back. The Spirit Walkers came in and connect the corner of the Revenant King. He starts bringing the Lycanus up round to join in this fight in the middle now. One Beast Pack moves up to kind of block at the other Lycanus not moving round there. And the Avatar War comes in and hits them in the flank as well. So those werewolves get evaporated by the Avatar in the flank. The Revenant takes a pounding and gets wavered by these guys. So, tip back, the Vampire flies over to finish this ridiculously damaged unit up. Over here, even he forgot to Bane chant them, so they come in and they don't actually do much damage to the Wraith. So the Wraiths go back in and hammer them again for quite a lot more damage. Over here, I'm not sure what happened to that Wraith troop. I think they must have died. I think that Wraith troop must have got killed by the Beast Pack of all things. So the Trolls going against that Beast Pack. The Trolls there going against the Avatar War, and I'm starting to pull my units round now to this flank to kind of get in the fight in the middle. So there, the Vamp takes them out. Unfortunately, he tries to go for the overrun. A 5 gets him out there one, but he needed a 6 to escape them, and he failed. So he gets the Spirit Walkers up the ass that probably are about to get Bane chanted. They go back in there again. Beast Pack's gone at this point, so the Trolls have moved up. They've been whacking on him, but not having much luck, I think. So we come up again. The Lycanus move over there. I put Lycanthropes. They're Lycans. My Lycanus and the Zombie Trolls go in the front. This Beast Pack goes in to block those werewolves coming round. They go back in. Yeah. Over here, these guys are still swinging. They are phenomenal. They're still swinging. They're not popped. They go back in. The Vampire survived. I think he turned to face. I can't remember who's wavered or not. He may have been able to counter charge. So we go in. They bounce. Just bounce again. Doesn't go particularly well for me there. They bounce. So that unit comes in, hits him. They're still hammering at this thing. You can see it's got almost 9 damage. Not popping. Over there, they've put a good 7 or 8 damage on them. So Vampire dies. He finally Bane chants him, and the Wraiths die. So the Avatar, these guys are pretty low. Those guys are there after popping Lycanus. So my werewolves go in there. He's still surviving just. They going against him. They going against the Stampede. Now at this point, it's in the trigger. Their both units are ready to pop. Double one they go, double one, anything but double one that goes, anything but double one they go, a double one them both. One roll, not even with a reroll. Both get double one. This bugger here especially, 3 turns in a row, double one them. He wasn't on a double one, but I double one them 3 turns in a row. And those guys going ineffectually. So luck doesn't happen. The zombie trolls just go pop then. The avatar goes back and pops them. They just go and pop them. The werewolves get popped. And it's game over. Dan wins 19-1. Victory point difference of 15,000. Attrition of 405. I only got 405 points out of it. It's one of those games. I played it right. I went in the first turn and I went for I think I played it right. There's nothing I would have done differently. But the dice, just the two kind of crucial moments. That initial charge, where the odds were in my favour, and I should have popped that stampede. That would have been game over. Or in the last turn, if the trolls had taken out the father and the stampede, it would have been quite open still. Then it would have came right down to the wire at that point where it would have gone. But not to be. And we did both go into the game saying someone needs to get a 20-0 like this to do well. And unfortunately, it wasn't me that got it. Dan got the 19-1. That was, it was gutting. But revenge was Dan's after last time we played. So, really good game. But yeah, those double ones, if you were the other side of the room and you heard me swearing really loudly, that was those double ones. Last game then, rolls around, game 6, and I'm against Vanger. So it's John Falks, John F, basically, of 4-foot Snake fame. I played everyone, I think, who does 4-foot Snake regularly then, Dan, Nick and John. There might be someone else there, and apologies if I've forgotten. So this is the final one, and the mission is not invade, control, I think it's called. It's the one where the table's divided up into 6 sections, and whoever has the most points in each section gets a point for that section, and your opponent's central section there is worth 2 points. So, John has, well, credit where credit's due, John doesn't have a Herja. That alone deserves respect because I didn't see many lists without them. So John had 2 units of Direwolves, with a Lord and Direwolf, a unit of Tundra Wolves tucked at the back there, a horde of Bloodsworn, 2 Magnus Conclaves, Tundra Wolves falling over there, 2 units of Thralls out in the flank with a Cursed Sun with the Wings of Honeymaze. So you can see how John deployed. It's kind of, we've got the central bat line there, and he's going to quickly run the Thralls down to capture those 2 points. I deployed. You may notice a pattern that they're almost all the same. This is after my turn 1 movement. I've got the 2 werewolves in the flank. I've got the wraith shoved up front to kind of chaff up because I need to take these guys. I've got the trolls coming up, vampire, and then revenant. So just move it all forward and see what he does. And like every other Vanguard player, he kind of didn't do much. He just moves back a bit and waits to see what's going to happen. Shoots a bit with the Magnus Conclave, shoves these guys up in the flank a bit. That gave me the opening I needed. Because these guys had came forward, the Magnus Conclaves weren't protected anymore. So these guys go in, they need an overrunner, they will give a flank, but they're going against one Magnus Conclave, I'm expecting them to pop it. He goes in against the other, not expecting him to pop it, and the Wraith's going against the Bloodsworn just to kind of keep them in check. Everyone else moves up to threaten this lot now that this bit of the army's isolated. Needless to say, it goes very well. They kill it, overrun, he kills it, gets a reformed to look down, those guys going against the Bloodsworn. So John just shuffles back a bit in the middle. These guys come in and do like 1 damage or 2 damage. This was just, I've never seen bad dice on this. Bloodsworn, crushing strength 1, charging the wraiths. I think he did 1 or 2 points of damage. So here, the werewolves from the hill just nip round to stay out of their charge arc. He comes from the hill and runs right down and pops the unit of direwolves that's hanging around the back. Those wraiths going against this unit of, not direwolves, sorry, Tundra Wolves. They going against this unit of direwolves. Over here, revenant, vampire, werewolves. From here, manage to charge across. He didn't spot the good old nimble charge across. Whack that unit of direwolves, pop it in the winner. These guys shufty up in the middle. Over in this flank, his thralls are just moving around, and his Cursed Sun's also kind of flying around behind that building. Yep, there the thralls, as I said, just shifting up. So here gets a bit blurry. He counter charges with the Lord, does some damage. The Fallen come streaking across. The Cursed Sun comes around the back here to hit those guys. So the Vampire and the Revenant and the Trolls go in, manage to squeeze them in against this Wraith unit, pop it. Not Wraith unit, Direwolf unit, pop it. These guys come back up until over here, threes on there. 2 rounds of combat, at least 2, maybe 3 rounds of combat from a Bloodsworn Horde. 3 wins, even with life leech. They're over in 5 or 6 now. The Revenants are actually doing a great job against them. So the Fallen going against these Direwolves that pop. This Cursed Sun's floating around here. These guys go back in against him. They're both kind of facing odd ways. He's not actually there. He's kind of tucked in here with a base because awkward models are awkward. So here, they arrive into flank there. The Vampire goes into flank of the Bloodsworn. Pair them, pop them. Over there, I think they countercharged the Cursed Sun and Milram. So the Lord gets the Lycanus up the back. And that was pretty much it. I popped the Lord, popped the Fallen. He's got the 2 Thrall units. He's got this Tundra Wolf unit sort of floating around, but I can get 2 points for there, point for there, point for there, and I can throw something to contest that one. So it's just, yeah, it's game over at that point. In fact, I even contest that one. The Lycanus goes over. I think the mistake John made was not coming forward. I know it's hard against my list, but the reason it worked for Dan is Dan just went rah and gave me an option of charge or be charged. And I'm not going to win standing back. So it's the same with all the Vanguard players. It's like when I look at a Vanguard list, and I have been thinking about doing one, it's quite similar to some degree to the list being played. I'm looking at going, this can take a punch. The point of the Vanguard is you just, in my mind, you just push it forward in their face and go, charge, or I'll charge you, and take it to face. But I suppose it's easier said when you're the one sitting the other side of your army, knowing how fragile it is. It always feels different when you're facing an army from when you're behind it. In John's case, the kind of opening mistake was just not moving the Magnus Conclaves back a couple inches, and that gave me the opening I needed to pile in and form the hole. But yeah, so that ended in a win. That gave me an 18-2 win. VPOI difference of 1120 and attrition of 140. So yeah, that ended me on quite high there, and put me on 16. So 16th place overall. Again, a bit disappointed, but I'm not too gutted. At the end of the day, Dan managed to podium. If he hadn't podium, I've been doubly annoyed about losing to him, but he managed to get a podium, so I feel better for that. That was my only loss, was the person who came third. Nick, who I did beat, came fifth. That was it's both nice that I beat someone who came fifth and annoyed that someone who I beat finished above me. There's a bit. It turns out they hadn't been doing Swiss at all. They'd just been going on attrition points against who you've been playing. So God knows what that did to the actual matchups. Because yeah, it did feel a little bit odd. You know, if you feel like John, who had defeated 18-2, dropped all the way to 35th. I don't think he should have been playing me in that situation. But yeah, I was on the whole really happy with how the army performed. Really happy with my performance. It was the dice, against Dan, I played it right. The dice were what screwed me. Against the draw I got against Chris, I think I played it right. Again, it was the dice at a key moment, didn't quite go my way, and I clawed it back a bit, but that scenario was always a tough one for me. I was sort of always had that down as kind of a scenario I was going to struggle with, no matter what. I really did. So yeah, overall, happy with the army, happy how it finished. Came away from the tournament quite motivated to get on with painting my herd army. I think I've reassessed it. I was going to do Vanguard, similar to to some degree to those lists that I've played in this one, but I've kind of reassessed a bit, and I think I'm going to give Orcs a shot. I'm still just working the list to finalise it, because I thought I'll pick one of the lists that didn't do so well and champion it, and sort of see if it can do well. And I think Orcs are the one I'm going to go with. I was looking at Dwarfs as well, but any of the Dwarf lists that I made that looked like they were competitive looked like an Orc list as well, to be honest. So I thought I'll do the Orcs. I can do a full Mantic army. So yeah, overall, don't think there's much a change in the list. Revenant with the Worm wasn't outstanding. Maybe put a second Vampire and a Dragon in there. I don't know if I could do that. But he was useful as well. So yeah, I think the build worked. Played it well. if I do say so myself. Not much I would have changed. So yeah, good tournament overall. Happy with the result, given the circumstances. Annoyed I didn't. Oh, bugger Dan in the dice. That's all I have to say about that one, I think. So yeah, hopefully when I'm feeling a bit better, I'll get the time to catch up with everyone else who I went to the tournament with, who we'd spoke to before. So Daz, Nick, and Dan, and catch up with how they got on as well. And you can hear the games against Nick and Dan from the other side, which I'll be interested in, and see what they were thinking. So catch y'all later.